You've walked past thousands of money-making opportunities this month, not because they weren't there, because your brain was running the wrong operating system. You felt it before, that sharp, electric moment where you saw exactly what to do, a gap in the market, a skill you had that someone would pay for, an opening in a conversation that could have changed your entire year. You felt it, and then the fog returned. The familiar, reasonable-sounding voice that said you don't have the resources yet, the timing isn't right, that's not realistic for someone in your situation. That voice isn't caution. That's a locked system performing its primary function, and it's been running so long you've started mistaking its output for your own thinking. In 2019, neuroscientists confirmed something that behavioral economists had been circling for over a decade. Your brain doesn't run one operating system. It runs two, and they cannot operate simultaneously. When one is active, the other is physically blocked, not as a metaphor, but as a measurable neurological event. Here is what that means in practical terms. Every hour you spend locked in the wrong system, your brain is filtering out financial opportunities the same way your eyes filter out your blind spot. The opportunities exist. You are architecturally incapable of seeing them, and that is not going to change through discipline, motivation, or working harder inside a system that is biologically designed to keep you small. In 2013, researchers at Princeton and Harvard published a study that quietly dismantled what most people believe about financial failure. They gave two groups identical cognitive tests measuring pattern recognition, planning, and problem-solving. Then they introduced one variable, the mental weight of an unpaid financial obligation, not the actual debt. Just the thought of it, the group under that financial pressure showed cognitive performance equivalent to missing a full night of sleep, not because those people were less capable. Because financial stress was consuming their cognitive bandwidth, the processing power the brain needs to detect opportunity, connect patterns, and think beyond the next 72 hours. When your nervous system is running a threat protocol, your brain's wealth-building circuits physically cannot load. You are not being pessimistic, you are running incompatible software. Here is how the two systems work and why this changes everything. Your brain has a threat detection circuit anchored in a structure called the amygdala that evolved to keep you alive in genuinely dangerous environments. It is fast, it is brutal, and when it activates, it floods your body with cortisol and narrows your attention to the nearest perceived threat. Long-term thinking goes offline. Abstract opportunity recognition disappears. Every decision gets evaluated through a single lens. What keeps me safe right now? Researchers call this survival mode. The other system, operating through the prefrontal cortex, is where everything you actually want to build lives. Long-term planning, strategic thinking, the ability to look at a problem and ask, how could I profit from solving this? That's wealth mode, and here's what nobody is telling you plainly. These two systems cannot run simultaneously. Your brain is either scanning for threats or scanning for opportunities, not both, never at the same time. The reason most people never build the financial life they're capable of isn't a character flaw. It's that their nervous system never received the signal that the threat was over, so it never handed control back. Now here is where this goes somewhere most people don't expect, because the biggest driver of survival mode in people who aren't in actual danger isn't hardship. It's urgency culture. Every piece of content telling you that you're falling behind, that time is running out, that others are getting ahead while you're standing still, your amygdala doesn't process that as motivation. It processes it as threat. Hustle culture is one of the most effective mechanisms for keeping high-potential people neurologically locked out of the system they're trying to enter. The people getting ahead aren't more motivated. They're not running hotter or sleeping less. They're running a different neurological state, and they got there through something that has nothing to do with grinding harder inside a system designed for survival. This is the trap. Survival mode is uncomfortable, but it is deeply familiar. Your brain has spent years building optimized pathways inside it. Every rationalization, every defensive interpretation of opportunity, every "that's not for someone like me" reflex. When you try to switch, the resistance that surfaces will not feel like fear. It will feel like wisdom. It will call itself realistic thinking. It will point to specific risks using specific precedents and sound completely reasonable. And the more you have tried to exit and been pulled back, the stronger those pathways become. Every time you recognized an opportunity, got briefly energized, and then talked yourself back down to baseline, you reinforced the highway back to survival mode. The brain does not distinguish between learned helplessness and earned wisdom. It just fortifies the road you travel most. The lockout doesn't announce itself. It argues for its own continuation using your own voice. Most people who never build real financial stability were not lazy, were not unintelligent, were not unfortunate. They were fully capable individuals who spent decades optimizing survival inside the wrong operating system because nobody told them the other one existed. Think about that. The ceiling on most people's financial lives isn't their IQ, their network, or their access to opportunity. It's the system running silently below every decision, invisible, inherited in many cases from households where the threat signal never turned off. Passed down not through genetics but through the behavioral language of environments where one unexpected expense meant everything falling apart. That's not a metaphor, that's the architecture of financial stagnation at scale. Here is what the neuroscience actually prescribes, and the precision matters because precision is what separates this from every generic answer you have already tried. The research points to 3 specific interventions, not as mindset shifts, but as actual neurological state changes. The first is a context reset. 10 to 20 minutes in an environment your nervous system reads as genuinely safe, not comfortable, but safe, measurably reduces cortisol and begins returning control to the prefrontal cortex. Not a vacation, not a reward. A quiet park, a room without notifications, any space where your body stops scanning for incoming threat. Without this, the other switches don't hold. The second is directed attention. Every morning, write down one specific financial question. Not a goal, a question. Something precise. What is one problem that someone in my city would pay $300 to solve this week that I already know how to address? Your brain's pattern recognition system doesn't respond to vague ambition. It responds to specific instruction. When you give it a precise question, it begins scanning your environment for answers autonomously. People, openings, and resources you walked past yesterday start registering as relevant. The third switch is the one most people skip because it seems too small to matter. Take one concrete financial action today, not a plan, an action. Transfer $20, send one outreach email, buy one share of something. The brain's reward prediction circuits activate on evidence of actual movement, not intention to move. Without physical evidence, survival mode reads the situation as stalled and maintains control. The sequence matters: reset the state, direct the attention, generate the evidence, in that order. When these 3 switches engage, something measurable happens. The neurological state shifts. The opportunities your brain was previously filtering as irrelevant begin registering as significant, not because they changed, but because the system running your perception did. The fog doesn't lift gradually, it lifts fast. Because it was never your limitation, it was your operating system's. And unlike character, unlike discipline, unlike willpower, an operating system can be switched. Wealth isn't a personality trait, it isn't a belief system. It's a neurological state that either makes opportunity visible or renders it invisible. And now you know exactly what controls that. The question isn't whether you have what it takes. Every version of that question is survival mode talking. The real question is which operating system you are running right now, and whether you are willing to execute the 3 switches before your brain constructs a compelling reason not to.